This is Shola's story. Though only 12 years old, she had endured more suffering and adversity than most people face in their entire lives. Living on the streets with a mother who struggled with mental illness, Shola had no father figure, no place to call home, and nobody fighting for her future. She managed just 2 years of schooling before having to drop out when the kind woman paying her fees vanished. Lost, overlooked, yet remarkably brilliant. Then one day everything shifted. She encountered Jessica, a billionaire's daughter attending the finest school money could afford, yet struggling academically. And it was Shola, the shoeless girl from the streets, who became her secret tutor. But when Jessica's influential father discovered a homeless child was teaching his daughter beneath a mango tree, his response will absolutely astonish you. So settle in, get comfortable, and prepare yourself for one of the most moving stories you'll ever encounter. And if you're joining us for the first time, please subscribe and like this video to help us share more uplifting stories like this. Filthy creature, I told you to get away from here. A glob of spit landed mere inches from Shola's naked feet. She remained motionless. She'd become accustomed to the abuse. The market vendor's voice cut through the air once more. Is this a garbage dump? You and that insane woman better move along before I drench you both. Shola held her mother, Ebony, more tightly. The woman sat shoeless beside the drainage ditch, muttering incoherently and drawing shapes in the dirt with a shaking finger. Her wrapper had slipped down, revealing marks and grime, but Ebony was oblivious. She existed in a different reality, one only she could perceive. People passed by, some slowing their pace, others staring. One woman stopped, shook her head, and continued walking. Nobody offered help. Nobody ever did. Shola was 12, but street life had aged her spirit. She no longer wept when people hurled insults. Mad woman's daughter. Street rat. Cursed child. She'd heard every cruel name. What stung worse was the hollow sympathy, the kind that came with head shakes but no helping hands. Her mother had once been beautiful, or so Shola liked to imagine. During rare moments of clarity, Ebony would hum old Yoruba melodies and call Shola princess. But those instances were like meteors, brilliant and fleeting before you could grasp them. Most days, Ebony couldn't even recall her surroundings. She'd scream at her reflection in puddles, hurl rocks at shadows, and flee from invisible demons. Shola had no father, not even a name, not even a picture. Who's my father? She'd asked once years earlier. Ebony had stared with empty eyes and answered, I don't know. The rain, perhaps the rain. That ended that discussion. They sheltered under a damaged stall near mile 12. When it rained they got soaked. When the sun blazed they burned. Their bed was cardboard. Their cover was nothing. Shola had forgotten what dreaming meant. Surviving was her only vocabulary. Every morning began identically. Ebony waking up screaming, scratching at the air. Shola would embrace her, hold her tight, whispering, It's me, Mama. It's me. Then she'd carefully clean her up, sometimes with just a cloth and gutter water, and guide her back to their usual begging spot on the street. Her mother begged, Shola watched. That was their existence. Sometimes people tossed coins. Usually they tossed insults. Mama, stay quiet today, all right? Shola murmured that morning, adjusting her mother's wrapper more securely. Just sit. Just stay calm. But Ebony suddenly jumped up and yelled at a passing vehicle. Return my wings. I left them in your trunk. The driver honked and veered away. Shola's face burned with shame. She turned and caught the gaze of a schoolgirl across the road, dressed neatly, carrying a lunch container. The girl watched momentarily, then quickly averted her eyes, whispering to her companion and giggling. Shola examined her own legs, caked with dust, her nails broken, her hands rough. Her belly rumbled, but she dismissed it. Hunger was her constant shadow. Yet underneath everything she had dreams. She dreamed of being in a classroom, lifting her hand to respond to questions. She dreamed of wearing a school uniform, writing in fresh notebooks, reading books that weren't waterlogged or ripped at the corners. She dreamed of someone, anyone, speaking her name without contempt. But who would educate a mad woman's daughter? Who would care about a girl whose mother pursued birds thinking they were evil spirits? No one. And still Shola held on to hope. She observed children walking by with their backpacks and tidy braids, and she told herself quietly, someday I'll sit in a proper classroom. Someday I'll leave this cursed section of Lagos. Someday my mother will smile once more and remember my name. But as she checked her bag to count the 10 naira note and 3 coins they'd collected thus far, she heard a vendor shout behind her, Thunder strike this poverty. Shola didn't turn around. She just held her mother closer and whispered, Amen. It began with a serving of jollof rice. Shola had been squatting next to her mother near Ashadi that afternoon, her stomach twisting itself into painful knots from hunger. Her mother was experiencing one of her quiet days, simply swaying back and forth like a stuck recording, her gaze vacant, lips moving silently. That's when Shola spotted a woman observing her from across the street. The woman stood behind a steaming food stall, plastic seats, a wooden counter, 2 coolers, and the distinctive aroma of prepared rice and pepper soup. She was light-complexioned, full-figured, and wore a simple Ankara dress. There was something in her look, something that wasn't pity. Shola glanced away, uncomfortable. She despised being watched like a zoo exhibit. Minutes later, the woman crossed the street and stood before her. "What do they call you?" she asked softly. Shola stared at her naked feet and murmured, "Shola? Where's your mother?" Shola gestured at the woman next to her, who was now serenading an empty container. The woman's expression softened. "She's ill, isn't she?" Shola nodded. "What have you eaten today?" Shola remained silent. Rather than pressing further, the woman extended a covered takeout container. "Here, eat." Shola paused. Strangers didn't offer food without wanting something back, something she wasn't prepared to give. "Don't worry," the woman smiled. "I'm different from the others." That was her first encounter with Auntie Linda. The food was warm. The rice delicious. The meat tender. Shola hadn't tasted meat in months. That same evening, Auntie Linda came back with bottled water and soap. "What's your story, child?" she inquired as she helped Shola clean her hands. Shola told her everything. The illness, the market, the school she once observed from outside, the hunger, the hope, the dreams. She didn't weep, but her voice faltered. Auntie Linda dried her hands with a cloth. "Come to my shop tomorrow. You'll assist me with cleaning. In exchange, I'll feed you." "Agreed." Shola nodded so enthusiastically her head nearly detached. The following day Shola arrived. She swept. She cleaned dishes. She served customers. And she studied Auntie Linda intently. How she greeted people. How she managed her modest business with quiet authority. One afternoon, Shola sat beneath the counter, writing numbers in the sand with a twig. Auntie Linda bent down and inquired, "Where did you learn that?" Shola replied, "From watching the school near the expressway. I memorized what the teacher taught." The woman blinked. "You mean you've never attended school?" "I did once for 3 weeks. Auntie BC paid, but she relocated." Auntie Linda fell silent for a long moment. The following week she came back with a present, a brand new exercise book and a set of pencils. The week after she went even further. 3 weeks later Shola stood inside a dusty public school classroom, her hands shaking, heart racing. She wore a second-hand uniform that Auntie Linda had purchased from a thrift shop. It was oversized, but it felt like royal attire. "Conduct yourself properly," Auntie Linda said that morning as she dropped her off. "Make me proud. I don't have funds to waste." Shola nodded rapidly, clutching the plastic bag containing her new book like it was treasure. The first day was unusual. Children stared, some snickered. But the instant the teacher posed a question and Shola responded before anyone else could raise their hand, everything shifted. She was intelligent, too intelligent. She answered questions older pupils couldn't. She memorized verses after hearing them once. She wrote with speed and accuracy. Even the headmistress inquired one day, "Who taught this child?" Shola always replied, "Auntie Linda." Every evening after school she went back to the food stand to work. She cleaned, helped serve, and occasionally got to sample leftover soup or fruit. But her true reward was seeing Auntie Linda nod with approval and say, "Good girl." It was the first time Shola felt acknowledged, felt cherished. Then just when life appeared to be improving, everything shifted. Auntie Linda arrived one night clutching a white envelope. "My sister in the UK finally completed my paperwork," she said, tears in her eyes. "After 7 years of waiting." Shola smiled. "So we're traveling?" The woman's smile disappeared. "No, Shola. Just me." The room fell silent. Shola blinked. "What about me?" Auntie Linda exhaled deeply. "I've paid your school through this term. Perhaps God will send another person to assist you. I've done everything I can." Shola gazed at her plate. She wanted to cry out, "Take me along. Please." But she simply nodded. 3 weeks later Auntie Linda had departed. Nobody said farewell. Nobody else came to pay the following term's fees. The headmistress summoned her one day and said, "We're sorry, Shola. Without fees you can't stay." She remained outside the school entrance for hours, gripping her bag, waiting for Auntie Linda to return. She never did. She lingered outside the school entrance until the sun started setting behind the buildings. Her uniform was dusty. Her book bag pressed against her side. Flies circled near her ear, but she didn't flinch. Her gaze remained fixed on the curve in the street where Auntie Linda had promised to return. But that curve stayed empty. Shola's stomach growled. Her throat burned from the dust she'd inhaled all day. Children walked past in groups, laughing, chasing one another. Their parents waited with treats and embraces. Nobody came for her. Finally, the security guard approached. "Little girl, it's time to leave." Shola nodded gradually. She rose, brushed herself off, and walked away. But she didn't go home. What was home anyway? The damaged stall she used to sleep in with her mother now housed a new occupant, a drunk who threatened her with a belt the last time she attempted to return. The corner near the bakery where Abony used to beg was now claimed by two boys who inhaled glue and attacked anyone who looked their way. The streets had transformed while she was away. The only thing unchanged was her mother. Still ill, still barefoot, still conversing with ghosts and spirits in the air. When Shola found her by the drainage that night, her mother was attempting to feed a dead bird with Gary mixed in murky rainwater. "Mama, it's me. Let's go somewhere secure," Shola murmured, but her mother just hissed and struck her. Shola wiped the blood from her mouth with her hand and sat beside her regardless. They spent the night huddled on the pavement, surrounded by cigarette remains and mosquito attacks. Her mother laughed in her sleep. Shola didn't sleep at all. The following morning she put on her school uniform again. She wrapped her books in black plastic and returned to the school. She waited outside the entrance. Perhaps they would reconsider. Perhaps someone would assist her. But when the headmistress walked by, she stopped and scowled. "Why are you here again? I told you, no fees, no school." "I'll pay." "I will," Shola stuttered. "How? You and that crazy woman don't even eat properly." The word struck like a blow. Teachers passed. Parents watched. Shola's face burned with humiliation. "Please, Ma, let me just sit in the back. I won't cause trouble." The woman shook her head. "Don't embarrass yourself. This isn't charity. Leave." And that was it. The gates shut. Shola sat against the wall and wept into her book until the text became unreadable. Days became weeks. She attempted returning to the food stand, but it had a new proprietor now. Auntie Linda was permanently gone. The new woman drove her away. She sold her last decent pair of sandals for 300 naira and used it to purchase bread and Gary. Her uniform faded to gray. Her exercise book got drenched in rain one night and the ink spread until all her notes became illegible. People stopped recognizing her as that bright girl. Now she was just another street child. Just another shadow by the roadside. One evening while searching for somewhere dry to rest, she saw a boy no older than 9 ignite a match and smoke something wrapped in paper. He looked at her and said, "Come join us. It'll make you forget you're hungry." She shook her head and walked away. Her hunger was loud, but her fear of becoming like those boys was louder. She still possessed one treasure remaining, her mind. And somehow she still believed that one day, just one day, everything would change. She couldn't stop herself. Regardless of how many times they drove her away, insulted her, or ridiculed her, Shola kept returning. Every morning while other children were fastening their shoelaces and straightening crisp white shirts, Shola would make her way to the rear fence of City Crest Academy, a private school that appeared like a palace from her perspective. The walls were painted golden. The windows had gleaming glass. The students wore blazers and polished shoes, their names embroidered precisely onto their uniforms. She didn't belong there, not even remotely. But it didn't deter her. There was one window left ajar behind a classroom with a small ledge she could balance on. It was beside an old mango tree where nobody ever glanced. That was her hidden spot. From there she could observe everything. The blackboard, the math problems, the teacher explaining vowels. Shola would mouth the answers silently to herself, gripping a broken pencil stub like it was holy. Her notebook had long been ruined by rain, so she wrote on scraps of paper she collected from trash bins, old flyers, tissue boxes, anything with a blank side. Each day she remained until the bell sounded. Then she'd disappear before someone noticed her. But one Monday she wasn't quick enough. The teacher spotted her, a ragged girl with bright eyes peering from behind the window. "Hey, who's that?" the woman shouted. Shola froze. A student turned, pointed, and said with revulsion, "It's that crazy girl again. The one who follows us." The class erupted in laughter. The teacher marched to the back and opened the door. "What do you want? Who sent you here?" Shola stammered, "I just want to learn. Please, just let me listen from outside." "Are you insane?" Do you think this is a public place? No, Ma, but I won't disturb anyone. I promise. Go tell your mother to pay school fees first, the teacher barked. If you even know who your mother is. Shola's lips opened, but no words emerged. The teacher grabbed a cane from the table and raised it. Shola turned and fled. Ran so fast she didn't feel the tears burning her cheeks until she reached the next street. She didn't surrender. The next day she found another school, Bright Scholars Academy, less elaborate but still secured. She didn't attempt the window this time. Instead, she crouched outside a broken section of the fence and listened. When children recited their multiplication tables, she whispered along. When they chanted words in English, she repeated after them. Sometimes she even corrected them under her breath. One morning a boy noticed her and threw a stone. "Which, go away. You're distracting us." Shola didn't react. The stone struck her shoulder, but she contained her tears. Another child laughed and shouted, "She's mad like her mother. Go learn in a psychiatric hospital." Still, she returned the next day and the day after that. But pain has a way of accumulating. One afternoon a security guard spotted her and grabbed her by the arm. "Who are you? You're always lurking around like a thief." "I'm not a thief, sir. I just want to learn." He didn't listen. He shoved her to the ground and warned, "Next time I see you here, I'll beat you." As she limped away, Shola looked up at the building, the bright walls, the desks, the blackboard. Everything she yearned for, yet everything she couldn't access. She sat beneath a tree and began writing multiplication tables in the dust with a stick. When the wind erased them, she started over. That night, as her mother babbled beside her in sleep, Shola gazed at the stars. "God," she whispered, "why did you make me so intelligent and then lock the doors to education? Did you give me this brain just to suffer?" There was no response. Just the distant sound of traffic and the quiet crying of a child desperate for more than mere survival. The first time Shola balanced a tray of water on her head, her neck almost gave way from the weight. She was barefoot. The tray was corroded. The sachets of pure water were barely chilled, but they were all she could obtain from Mama Dora's shop on credit. "Don't damage any," Mama Dora had cautioned. "If one drops, you pay. If I catch you sitting to rest, you pay." Shola had nodded. She was accustomed to rules that caused pain. She adjusted the tray and stepped into the sunlight. The Lego streets didn't care that she was 12. They didn't care that her feet were blistered or that her shoulders quivered under the heat. All they cared about was the hustle. The pure water business was warfare. Grown women pushed her aside. Boys twice her size called her small mad girl and stole her customers. Buses nearly crushed her. Drivers screamed at her, but she kept moving. Every time she sold a sachet, she'd murmur under her breath, 5 naira closer to food. Her goal was simple: feed her mother. That was it. Nothing elaborate, no dreams, no fantasies. Just bread and okra so her mother wouldn't go hungry. By noon, her legs were trembling. Her lips split. Her body pleaded for rest. She found a corner beneath a faded billboard and sat. She had sold 12 sachets. That was 120 naira. If she sold 10 more, she'd have enough to buy gari and okra. A man walked past, saw her, and dropped 200 naira into her tray. "Go buy something, little one," he said. She blinked. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. But the moment he turned the corner, a teenage boy snatched the money from the tray and ran. She screamed and gave chase, but he vanished into the chaos of the market. Shola stopped. Her chest heaved. Her eyes burned. She sat by the gutter and sobbed. People walked past. No one looked twice. That evening, she returned to the roadside where her mother sat, humming to herself and clapping like a child. Shola forced a smile. "Mama, I brought bread." Her mother looked at her, confused. "Who are you? Who are you, the angel with black wings?" Shola's heart sank. "No, Mama, I'm Shola. Your daughter." Her mother giggled. "My daughter is a star. She fell from the sky and drowned in a bottle of oil. That's what they told me." Shola held her gently and tore the bread into small pieces, feeding her slowly. She didn't eat. She was too exhausted. Later that night, Shola found a broken mirror by the kiosk they sometimes slept near. She stared into it. Her face was sunburned. Her eyes swollen. Her lips bleeding from too much heat. She looked nothing like the students in the schools she watched. And yet, when she whispered math questions to herself, she still got the answers right. "When you divide 6 by 3, what do you get?" she asked herself quietly. 2, she smiled. No matter how much the world tried to break her, her mind was still sharp. Her fire still burned. And that was enough to keep her going. The next day she was back on the road. Tray full, feet raw, heart steady. She was selling water, but in her heart, she was still chasing something bigger. A chance, just one chance to prove that the daughter of a mad woman didn't have to die in the streets. Shola wasn't meant to be there. Queen's Crest International School had towering, gleaming gates, protected by men in navy blue uniforms with radios attached to their belts. Children arrived in air-conditioned SUVs, accompanied by drivers in white gloves. The walls sparkled with fresh paint. The glass windows reflected sunlight like crystals. It was a school for the wealthy, the privileged, certainly not for the shoeless daughter of a roadside mad woman. But Shola had observed it too many times from a distance. And today something within her said, "Go closer." She had no money, no plan, and no right. But she had eyes filled with yearning. So she crept around the side fence where bushes and weeds grew thick. She discovered a small opening near a drainage pipe and squeezed through, brushing off thorns as she slipped inside. Her heart hammered like a drum. She anticipated being caught instantly. But nobody saw her. She walked past flower beds, hiding behind trees, ducking whenever she spotted a teacher or student. Eventually, she found a quiet area behind a large mango tree near the back field. From there, she could see one of the junior classrooms through a window left open. She crouched low, pulled out a pencil from her pocket, and began copying the words she heard onto a scrap of plastic. She was halfway through sounding out a difficult English passage when she heard a voice behind her. "You're the girl they always chase away, right?" Shola's heart stopped. She spun around. A girl about her age stood there, her hair braided in neat cornrows, her uniform immaculate, her name tag gleaming, Jessica Agu. "I didn't mean any harm," Shola stammered, backing away. "I was just listening." Jessica tilted her head. "Why?" Shola blinked, confused. "Because I want to learn." Jessica walked closer. "You don't go to school?" "No. My mother, she's sick. We live on the streets." Jessica looked down. Her polished black shoes made no sound on the soft grass. "People laugh at me too," she said quietly. "They say I'm stupid, that my dad paid the school to keep promoting me." Shola looked up, surprised. "You?" Jessica nodded. "I don't understand anything they teach in class. Everyone's always ahead of me. So I sit out here during lunch, alone." A long silence passed. Then Jessica smiled. "Do you want to sit?" Shola hesitated. Jessica sat first and patted the ground beside her. Shola slowly lowered herself to the grass. Jessica opened her bag and pulled out a textbook. "Can you teach me this? I don't get it." Shola looked at the page, fractions. She studied it for a moment, then gently took the book. "Okay, so look. When you see 1/2 and 1/4, they don't have the same denominator." Jessica listened, wide-eyed, as Shola broke it down. Within minutes, Jessica was solving problems she had struggled with all term. She gasped. "I understand. I finally get it." Shola smiled shyly. "You're not dumb." Jessica grinned. "And you're not just smart. You're amazing." They sat under the mango tree for over an hour. When the bell rang, Jessica stood. "Will you come tomorrow?" she asked. Shola hesitated. "They'll chase me. I don't belong here." Jessica narrowed her eyes. "Wait here for a moment." She ran off. A few minutes later, she returned with the school's security man following closely behind. "This is my friend," Jessica said firmly. "Her name is Shola. She'll be here tomorrow during lunch. Let her in." The man looked confused. "But she's my friend," Jessica repeated. "And my daddy owns this school. You have a problem with that?" The man blinked and said nothing. Jessica turned to Shola. "Same time tomorrow, okay?" Shola nodded slowly, still not believing what had just happened. As she left the school, she felt something new. Not fear, not shame, hope. That night, as her mother sang to a broken bottle and danced barefoot in the dark, Shola sat by the gutter and prayed. "God, I met someone today. She saw me. She didn't call me dirty or mad. She listened. Please let me see her again. Let this not be a dream." Then she slept with a smile on her face, the first in a very, very long time. They gathered beneath the mango tree every single day. Same time. Same location. Shola arrived barefoot in her torn brown dress, holding a plastic bag with torn papers and a dull pencil. Jessica arrived in her pressed uniform with a lunch container packed by the cook. Two girls from two separate worlds. But when they sat beneath that tree, nothing else was important. Their friendship flourished like a flame in the cold. Jessica laughed more now. She paid attention in class not because the teachers finally made sense but because Shola did. "Don't read it like a machine," Shola would murmur. "Read it like you're talking to your best friend." Jessica tried, stumbled, then tried again. And when she succeeded, Shola clapped with joy like she'd won a prize. Jessica's eyes would sparkle. "No one ever applauds for me," she once admitted. Shola blinked. "But you're wealthy. Don't people celebrate you?" Jessica shook her head. "Only when I dress well or when my dad hosts parties. Not when I get answers right. Not when I try hard." That day, Shola held her hand and said something she never thought she would say. "You deserve more." Jessica didn't say anything. She just held Shola's hand tighter. One afternoon as they shared Jessica's spaghetti and plantain under the tree, Jessica asked, "Do you have a best friend?" "You," Shola replied without thinking. Jessica smiled. "Me too." Then her smile faded. "Shola, what if my daddy finds out? What if he says we can't be friends?" Shola paused, her spoon hovering over the lunchbox. "Then you'll forget me. That's how it works." "No," Jessica snapped. "I won't." "He'll be angry," Shola said softly. "Rich men don't want their daughters sitting with girls like me. My mother begs on the road, Jessica. Some people say she's cursed. They think I'm cursed too." Jessica was quiet. Then she leaned forward and whispered, "You're not cursed. You're magic." Shola blinked, stunned. "Magic?" Jessica nodded firmly. "Yes. Who else can teach better than all my teachers? Who else can make me laugh when I feel like crying? Who else can make a place like this feel like home?" Shola's chest grew tight. Her eyes welled, but she blinked fast to hold back the tears. "Magic," Jessica whispered again. "That's what you are." They began sharing more than food and textbooks. Jessica brought Shola a hairbrush, a small blue notepad, even a pair of slippers once, though Shola rarely wore them, afraid someone would steal them on the street. Shola in return told stories, real ones and made-up ones. Stories about stars falling in love with street kids, about girls who found schools and dreams, and about mothers who got healed by rain. Jessica listened like every word mattered. And it did. For the first time in her life, Jessica didn't feel alone. And for the first time, Shola didn't feel invisible. But they kept it secret. Jessica didn't tell her teachers, didn't tell her classmates, definitely didn't tell her father, Chief Agu, one of the most feared and respected billionaires in Lagos. She didn't know how to. How do you tell a man who ran oil companies and appeared on TV panels that your best friend was a street girl with no shoes? And so, under the mango tree, the two girls built a world of their own. A world where names didn't matter, where backgrounds didn't exist, where a billionaire's daughter and a mad woman's child could dream the same dream. Together. One day Shola didn't appear. Jessica sat beneath the tree waiting. She checked her watch, 30 minutes, then an hour. Still no Shola. Panic crept into her chest. Had something happened to her? Had she fallen ill? Or worse, had someone chased her again? She stood, ready to run to the gate, when she heard a soft voice. "Jessica." She turned. There was Shola, panting, barefoot, dirt on her legs but smiling. "I'm sorry I'm late." And then she said, "My mom, she had an episode, ran into the road. I had to pull her away before she got hit." Jessica rushed forward and hugged her tightly. "I thought you weren't coming." Shola chuckled. "Even if I had to crawl, I would come." Jessica pulled back and looked her in the eye. "One day I'll tell my dad. I promise." Shola swallowed hard. "What if he says no?" Jessica smiled with fire in her eyes. "Then I'll scream until he says yes." That night under the dim light of a broken street lamp, Shola lay beside her mother, who was humming to herself, holding a stone like it was a baby. Shola stared at the sky and prayed. "God," she whispered, "I've never had a friend before. Please don't let me lose this one." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the notepad Jessica gave her. On the first page was a drawing, two stick figures holding hands under a mango tree, one in uniform, one in rags, both smiling. Shola traced the drawing with her finger and smiled. Then she closed her eyes. And for the first time in her life, she didn't fall asleep afraid. The morning began like any other. Jessica sat through her classes, distracted, waiting for the lunch bell. Her fingers drummed her desk restlessly. Her heart was beating faster than normal. The teachers commended her improved performance. She had answered 2 questions correctly in literature. Even the principal mentioned it during assembly. But Jessica didn't care because none of them knew the reason behind the change. It wasn't tutoring from an expensive private coach. It was Shola, the barefoot girl with a powerful mind and a heart bigger than anyone she'd ever known. Jessica couldn't wait to see her. At exactly 12:35 p.m., she was already under the mango tree with 2 spoons, a lunchbox, and Shola's favorite biscuit tucked into the corner. Then she heard it, The low rumble of black SUVs rolling into the compound. Students turned to look. Teachers froze mid-sentence. Even the security men adjusted their uniforms and saluted. Jessica's stomach dropped. Daddy? Why is he here? Chief Agu didn't visit the school without warning. He was too busy for surprises. His name alone carried weight. His presence filled every space before he even spoke. Jessica stood quickly, brushing crumbs from her skirt. She didn't know what to do. Then, before she could act, Shola appeared, breathless, smiling, barefoot as always. I'm here, she said. Sorry, I had to fetch water before leaving. But Jessica wasn't smiling. Her eyes were locked on the figure stepping out of the SUV. Tall, dark-skinned, impeccably dressed in a black kaftan and leather sandals. Chief Agu, her father. Shola followed her gaze. Her body stiffened. Is that? Jessica nodded slowly. My dad. Shola's smile vanished. Panic crashed through her chest like a wave. I have to go, she whispered. But it was too late. Jessica. The deep voice echoed across the lawn. She turned. Chief Agu walked forward, followed by two assistants. His eyes were sharp, calculating, confused. What are you doing out here? He asked. Jessica swallowed hard. I was having lunch. With who? Chief Agu looked to his daughter's side and saw Shola, a girl in a torn gown, legs covered in dust, holding a worn-out plastic bag and a half-eaten biscuit. His brow furrowed. Who is this? Shola bowed her head. Her mouth opened, but words refused to come out. Her entire body trembled. Jessica stepped in front of her. This is Shola. She's my friend. You're what? She helps me. She teaches me. Chief Agu blinked. Excuse me? Jessica took a breath and stood taller. The reason I've been doing well in school is because of her. She teaches me during lunch every day, and I understand her better than any teacher here. A long, heavy silence followed. Chief Agu's eyes remained fixed on the trembling girl behind his daughter. Then he asked quietly, Who are your parents, child? Shola barely looked up. Her voice was dry and cracked. I don't know my father, sir. My mother, she's sick. She begs by the roadside near Ashadi. People call her mad. We have no home. One of the assistants shifted awkwardly. Chief Agu's face remained unreadable. You're not in school? Shola shook her head. Why? No one to pay fees. My only sponsor, she left the country 2 years ago. Jessica grabbed Shola's hand. Chief Agu watched the gesture. His daughter holding this girl's hand like a lifeline. And for the first time he softened. You've been coming here every day, teaching her in secret? Jessica nodded. I wanted to tell you, but I was scared. He looked at her, and for once his voice lowered. Scared of me? Jessica whispered. Scared you wouldn't let me see her again. The billionaire turned back to Shola. She flinched. I'm not here to hurt you, he said slowly. Take me to your mother, please. Shola took a shaky step back. Sir, please. Don't punish her. She doesn't know what I do here. She's not well. If I stop coming, I'll stay away. Just don't hurt her. I won't, Chief Agu said gently. I just want to see her. Jessica looked at her father. Promise you won't chase Shola away. He stared at both girls, two children from different worlds, but somehow they had found each other. I promise, he said. 30 minutes later, the convoy pulled into a dusty street near mile 12. Flies buzzed. The scent of burning trash hung in the air. Shola pointed. She's there. A woman sat on the sidewalk, barefoot, rocking back and forth, laughing at nothing. Her clothes were torn, her hair matted. That's my mama, Shola whispered. Chief Agu was silent. He stepped down from the vehicle, walked toward the woman, and crouched beside her. Madam, he said softly. The woman looked up. Did you bring the sky? I left my wings in your car. Tears welled in Shola's eyes. I'm going to help her, Chief Agu said quietly. I know people. She needs proper care. Please, Shola said. I don't want money. I just want her to be okay. He stood, turned to his assistant, and gave orders. Get Dr. Aisha on the line. Psychiatric unit, full treatment, no delays. Then he turned back to Shola. And you? Shola's heart raced. From today you are not a homeless girl. She gasped. He knelt before her, placed a firm hand on her shoulder, and looked her in the eyes. You have a father now. Shola couldn't believe it at first. Even as the car pulled away from the filthy street that had been her entire world. Even as she watched through the tinted glass while her mother was carefully lifted into an ambulance, headed for the finest psychiatric hospital in Lagos. Even when Jessica held her hand and whispered, You're safe now. She still thought it was a dream. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She simply stared, trying to understand how a day that began with fear had somehow ended with a billionaire calling her daughter. Chief Agu moved quickly. By evening, Shola had taken her first proper bath in years. Jessica had given her fresh pajamas. Her hair had been gently combed and styled by one of the housemaids, who couldn't hide her surprise when Chief Agu introduced her. This is Shola. She'll be staying with us from now on. Treat her with the same respect you give my daughter. The entire household froze. The girl from the street living here? But Chief Agu's tone left no room for questions. The next morning, Shola stood in front of the mirror in Jessica's room, wearing a borrowed Queen's Crest school uniform. It was new, crisp, neatly ironed. She could hardly recognize herself. Jessica clapped with delight. You look just like me. Shola smiled weakly. I feel like I'm dreaming. You're not. My daddy said it's real. He said you belong here. But I'm the daughter of a mad woman, Shola said, her voice trembling. Jessica shook her head. No. You're the daughter of my father now. Shola turned slowly to the window, staring into the rising morning light. I don't know how to thank him. Jessica smiled. Then thank him the only way he truly cares about. How? Shine. Show the world what you can do. That day the two girls walked into Queen's Crest together. Matching uniforms, matching bags, matching smiles. Gasps followed them. Children whispered. Teachers blinked in confusion. Wasn't that the same street girl who used to hover behind windows and fences? Yes, it was. But today she walked with the daughter of the school's founder. No more sneaking. No more peeping. She had come through the front gate as a student. In class, Shola raised her hand. Every question, every lesson, she wasn't just good, she was brilliant. By the end of the day, the teachers called a meeting with the principal. Where did this girl come from? One asked. She's not just smart. She's exceptional. The principal smiled. From the street, apparently. But now she's family. Meanwhile, Chief Agu kept his promise. Shola's mother was placed under expert psychiatric care at a private facility. Dr. Aisha assured him that Abani's condition, while critical, was treatable. We'll stabilize her, the doctor said. It will take time. But with love, medication, and structure, there's hope. Shola visited her mother once a week. The first few times her mother didn't recognize her. She'd shout at the walls or cry over invisible snakes. But on the fifth visit she suddenly paused. She looked up at Shola and whispered, You look like the sky. Shola burst into tears. Weeks passed. Shola adjusted to her new life slowly. She still woke up some nights gasping, thinking she was back on the sidewalk. She still flinched when someone raised a hand too quickly. But gradually, her smile became freer. Her laughter more frequent. She spoke during class. She made new friends. But no one ever took Jessica's place. They were sisters now, not by blood but by bond. They shared everything, stories, secrets, lunch, and dreams. Jessica's grade soared. Her confidence bloomed. Her teachers marveled. And they all knew why, because of the girl who used to sit under the mango tree. One Friday afternoon, Chief Agu called Shola into his study. She stood nervously by the door. He gestured for her to sit. I've been watching you, he said. You've changed my daughter's life. And mine. Shola lowered her gaze. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to learn. He chuckled. And now you will. As far as I'm concerned, you're my child. And I'll do for you what I do for Jessica. He opened a drawer and handed her a brand new tablet, preloaded with all her school materials. Shola stared at it like it was made of gold. Then she whispered, Thank you, sir. Thank you for seeing me when nobody else did. He stood and placed a gentle hand on her head. You were never invisible, Shola. You just needed someone to look close enough. That night, Shola sat in the garden under the mango tree, now neatly trimmed, surrounded by clean tiles and benches. She looked up at the stars. My name is Shola, she whispered. Daughter of no one, friend of Jessica, student of Queen's Crest. And now, she smiled, I have a father. She closed her eyes and whispered a final prayer. God, I used to ask you to make my mother better, to send me to school, to give me just one friend. You gave me all three. I don't deserve it, but thank you. She placed a hand over her heart. I promise I won't waste this chance. And so the girl the world called daughter of the mad woman became something far greater, a symbol of hope, a walking miracle, a living answer to her own desperate prayer. And for Chief Agu, for Jessica, and for everyone who ever believed that love and education can change a life, Shola was proof. The future had finally opened its doors. And she walked through them head held high. No child is born without value. Every life contains potential. With compassion, opportunity, and education, even the most overlooked soul can rise. Shola's story shows us that one act of kindness can shatter cycles of poverty and rejection. True greatness isn't about where you come from, but what you do when someone finally sees you. Believe, uplift, and never judge a child by their circumstances. We hope you enjoyed this moving story. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share what you learned in the comments below. Your feedback means everything to us. And guess what? Another uplifting and educational story is coming your way in just a few days. So make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to be the first to watch when we upload. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and share it with your family and friends. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.